have an author tip for you. If you are somebody who wants to be involved in anthologies, you can use them to your benefit in a couple of different ways. Back at the beginning of my career, I was involved in several anthologies. I actually ran several anthologies. And what I did was I wrote a specific story for that anthology to go with the theme, to go with the genre, to go with what that anthology was, with the knowledge that I would then be able to, after the term was up, take that story and publish it as a novella. So I actually printed those books out. They are books that you can get today. You can find them in the anthologies, but you can also find them as standalones after that term. So when I was looking at anthologies, I would not do anything that was exclusive. I would not do anything that was just inside of that anthology and that's all it was, because I needed to be able to use this to benefit my career. Anthologies, way fun, but typically not that profitable and typically not something that's going to bring you in a lot of readers. And so being able to dual purpose this by putting it inside of an anthology that people can access, where other people are bringing in their audience and maybe will get to know you as well, but then being able to do it as a standalone is the key for me to make those choices in my career. Now, you can do it whatever way you want, but I really like the ability to have it exclusive to an anthology for a certain number of months usually, and then be able to take it and create my own cover, design my own interior, and use it out in my career as a standalone. That gives me more books displayed on my Amazon page. You know how it goes, but it also allows me to then be able to market it, to leverage it, and to use those individual stories. And I can choose how I'm going to create those. Depending on what the anthology is and how you're going to do it, you could potentially connect a bunch of your novellas together and use them as a mini series once they're out, or you can just use them as standalones. I personally tend to use them as standalones, and it's worked really well for me because now I get to have myself marketed in an anthology, but I also get to use it for my own purposes. I also get to have my own versions of this at book signings. I get to have more books on my shelf, more books on my Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo pages. I get to have more. I get to use it in more ways. So if you're writing for an anthology, it's best to make sure you know who you're working with, how you're working with them, what the terms are, and then go into it with the knowledge that you will then hopefully be able to use that on your own after the fact. And for me, I was able to write the stories and submit them to the anthologies, do whatever I needed for those. And while it was in its exclusivity term for a few months, I was then able to prepare it to go live. So the day that it went out of that term that we agreed to for exclusivity for the anthology, I was able to put that out. I could put it out on that day, on the next day. I could put it out months later. I could do whatever I wanted with it. But for me, usually it's like a 6-month period. Sometimes it's a 3-month period. Sometimes it's a year. It depends on what anthology you're doing. But if it's more than a few months, there's space for your audience to then want that standalone. There's space for you to be able to use it. So I use that time where it's exclusive to get it ready, to do my cover, to do my interior, to do my formatting, to have everything ready to go. And I do not put the pre-order out because that typically violates some of the terms of the contract that you have with the anthology. So you do not do that until it is fully cleared of what's going on. And I also make sure I keep people in the loop. Hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm going to be doing. And when it goes out, now we're good. Just to make sure everybody's on the same page and nobody has their feelings hurt or gets upset over it. But it's a really nice way to be able to multi-purpose the books that you're doing. Now, typically, we are not going to see anthologies take books that are already published. So if you already have a novella out, you probably cannot take it and then put it in an anthology. But if it starts in an anthology and then you put it out as a book on your own, you're usually good to go, again, depending on the terms of the contract. So I've done this for a lot of my novellas, actually. They've been in multiple anthologies, and I've actually written some for anthologies that never ended up happening, and then I just had really great stories that I could put out to the public. So if you want to think about anthologies, definitely worth thinking of. Anthologies really aren't something that I'm doing right now. They're just not serving me in what I'm doing right now. That could always change. There could always be something that I say, oh, I really love those people. I really love what they're doing. I am going to work with that one. But for the most part, I would say 99% of the time, I am not going to be working with anthologies just because the industry has changed so dramatically and so radically from the time that I was doing these at the beginning of my career many years ago. They just are not serving in the same way that they used to, or the people that are creating them are not serving in the same way that it used to. So it really comes down to who's in charge, who's involved. Who is in charge and who is involved will determine whether or not I am willing to be involved. And so you will grow and you will try things. I think it's really helpful, especially if you are a newer author, to get involved in these things. When you're more established, you're going to need more from it for it to be a good choice for you. So you have to take a lot into consideration as you're doing it, but group projects can be really fun if everybody does their own individual things within it and it's not all falling on you like it did back in high school. I'm just saying. Drop your questions about anthologies down below. And if you want to check out my books, I have had books. This is one of the anthologies that I ran back in the day. This is a circus theme. Blood is Silent comes from it. It is my Little Red Riding Hood Circus Aerialist retelling, but I've also done it for several of my other books that are then out to the public, The Goose Girl and the Artificial being one of them, and my Little Mermaid retelling, The Sinking, also one of them, but there's more out there as well. So drop your questions down below and follow along for daily videos helping you navigate the world of your marketing, your writing, and your publishing to make this your best author year ever. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.